Is that in the flood zone?
What's that?
It's in the flood zone.
Recording. And we can open the meeting of the 23rd of February, Town of Yarmouth Community Preservation Committee.
There's your opening.
No, she said we.
We can, you can.
Do we have to read that?
We don't have to read anything.
So that's part of this whole thing.
Yeah,
I don't have to read that thing.
I don't think so.
Not on here.
We'll just reference the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and an act relative to extending certain COVID measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on June 16th, 2021. We will hold a public meeting at the date and time noted, and the public is welcome to attend either in person or via the alternative public access provided via Zoom. Now we're official.
Gee, you missed all this, Tom. It's been fun.
Well, you know, it wasn't my intention. I made it known that at the end of my term on the planning board, I wasn't going to renew my term. Of course, that impacts all the other committees
Yeah,
that I sat on.
well, the Zoom stuff, it's just,
Kathy asked me to stay until September, instead of ending it first. I said, okay, fine. So that's why I didn't meet with any of the boards after.
There's George.
because The appointments,
It's 4, maybe 5 per quorum.
we need 5 to vote. Anything.
Mhm. And Nate said he'd be here, so I'll keep my eye open.
Yeah, you probably come on here.
Yeah.
Yo, Nate.
So anyways, I'll call the meeting to order at 3:07. So the first item on our agenda is thanks for coming, Tom. Appreciate it. You spent plenty of time here, so no, I did not prepare any speech, but I don't have to. I was very proud of the time that I spent with you,
exactly.
and you encouraged me all the time, and I appreciated that. And all you have to do is drive around town, and you know the stuff we did.
Exactly.
It was a long
Yep.
haul, but we got there, and now everything's worked out great. So I want to personally thank you for helping me and the board as a whole. I want to thank you for all the time you put into the town of Yarmouth.
What has it been, about 14 years?
It's longer than that, right? So you were on here to start, right?
No.
No, you came on right after?
Jim Hogan was chair.
Oh,
I came
right.
on. But he had been chair maybe a year or two, so. Yeah, must be somewhere around 14.
I saw Jim.
Wow.
You ever watch Dining Playbook?
No, somebody,
It's on Nesset, but he was on there a couple of months ago.
yeah,
He shaved his mustache.
really,
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
Yeah. I've
Really.
been to his
Yeah.
restaurant here by Fenway, with Burn,
Yep, yep.
and he has one down by BC too. Right near the campus.
He's done well for himself.
He was always great personality. So anyways, in appreciation for everything you've done, we wanted to do this to give you this plaque. You can hang it up outside your house so people can see them. But make sure you show Mr. Peckler.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a heck of a ride. I really enjoyed the people that just gravitated to CPC, and look at what's been accomplished. You mentioned some of the accomplishments, but look at the wastewater issue. You know, I serve on the RAC committee, and that's pivotal for Yarmouth. We basically have phase 1 and
Yeah.
relative to finances and so forth. So it was a major step, and some of the things that you came up with.
Well, it was a challenge, but you know, I always
Education.
felt it didn't have to be one or the other.
Right.
It's got to be both, and we still got to work with wastewater as we go forward.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys have seen the plaque at all. Don and I put it together.
Yeah.
Mostly Don.
Congratulations, Tom.
Very nice.
Uh, Oh, wow. Cool lettering too.
Yeah. It always bothered me for the town of Yarmouth for all the years some people put in,
Yeah.
and then they give them like a pen.
Piece of paper.
So we wanted
The
to,
selectmen get chairs.
I got a chair from conservation.
Did you really?
Yeah. I was one of the last one, but I love that chair.
Yeah, we just gave one to one.
Did you? Good.
Phil, I forgot his last name now.
Yes.
Phil's the one who took my spot.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it took a while because of COVID, but they did. We shipped in and got him a chair and it took him out to Captain Parker's.
Good choice.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll let
yeah.
you guys get on with the meeting.
No, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Standing ovation.
Thank you for
Hi,
helping me
George.
out over
Thank
the
you
years.
as well.
Thank you. Be safe.
And anytime you want to pop in, it's an open meeting.
right.
Thank you.
You
Enjoy
go home
those
and find a
grandkids.
nice place for the house.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Well, you guys are in good hands with Gary.
Well, if I don't see you, Tom, and I
Take care.
hope I do,
Thank you.
have a good summer.
Thank you.
bet.
Take
Okay.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, folks.
All right. So we can have this discussion. It's George is here and George's idea, they came up with this in Truro, right? This mini grant, George
Right.
started.
Yes. Saw that in the newspaper a while ago and, just, something a little different, especially this year where we only had a few applications. It might be something that, we can do a little more homework on and see if it makes sense for us, to utilize something like this.
I personally think it's a great idea.
So-
We get so many projects, like 1 million, 2 million, 3, like washes, some of these small projects for $20,000, even if it's a community thing, that's what this committee is supposed to be about. And I think like you said, I think this would be the year if we're gonna try it, this would be the year to do it. So open it up to discussion of the trustee about this. Do you understand the concept?
I think it's a wonderful idea. I mean, there's a lot of little things. I mean, I was thinking of like signage in conservation areas and things, that,
Well,
people go walking on trails and they come to an intersection. They don't know what.
yeah,
it's-
we need signage on the trails. We have great walking trails. And I walk them all the time with the dog, and there is no signage, like that sign you did down at Indian Memorial. Is great. There's always people reading that.
Right. Absolutely.
I think we need more of those.
It doesn't have to be big kiosks.
Doesn't have to be that big.
All they have to do is be little trails, logs go this way or the long trail goes that way.
Well, if you walk the trails in the National Seashore, they have them all over the place.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll just be about a particular bird. I know, Paul, if you go on that walking trail behind the fire station.
Yeah.
There is a particular elm tree, I believe it is, that it's one of the few places in the whole country where they exist. Brad would know more about that because he researched it, but I'd like to see like signage there,
Right.
identifying those trees. If you see them and you're there, they're
Yeah.
really interesting.
What's special about them? Yeah.
Yeah, they're some type of special elm.
Yeah.
But only exist in a few places in the whole country.
Yeah, in fact.
But even Truro had some very interesting, different kinds of applications, so we would want to certainly
Yeah,
encourage all different types of things to come in,
Even if it's an event, it could certainly qualify under recreation.
Is there anything, I haven't looked
So-
closely at the application myself. But I think you do have to keep it to a really small 1 or 2 page application.
Yes,
Well, 3 pages with the budget, right? Basic information, a little narrative and a budget, like 3
Yeah.
pages.
saying, what are you proposing, how much is gonna cost, et cetera.
And
Yeah,
the
but-
quotes.
the other thing, we need to get it out there and let people know what we're gonna be doing.
We need some kind of a press release,
Right. and post it at town hall.
Yeah,
I-
and put something up on the Facebook, the town Facebook.
Yep.
And obviously, we could cover something like this in our annual meeting, that we have, prior to, the application period. But it would be good to get things out.
I think it would also, when we have our meeting with the selectmen, tell them proposing to do this.
So
Right.
that's next Tuesday's meeting,
Do we have a meeting Tuesday?
March 1st, yeah.
Well, yeah, next time we meet with them, I think the more people know about this and get the word out, I think the better.
I was gonna say, even if going to a selectmen's meeting, the comments at the beginning,
Get it on Facebook, but I would get it to the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
So you want the applications to be available immediately, and reviewed on a rolling basis, or are you gonna have a start date and an end date and a
I think we
vote?
have to have an actual start date. You just can't say, okay, as of now.
well, they'd have to be, we would need a deadline for the fall selectmen's meeting. When do they start working on the articles for that? Deadline would have to be-
Like the week after annual.
Well, when is our annual? What date?
Yeah,
Just take applications the day after.
Because, which is fine. The last I heard is it was up in the air as to whether we should stick with I think it's the last Tuesday in April is what our charter says. But then there was a question, is it going to be safe by then? Maybe
Well,
we
last
should
year,
wait till
didn't we go into May?
we went into May, and even then it was still, I don't know. So I don't know if there's been a confirmed date yet.
Who makes that decision?
I think the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
So maybe we'll find out on Tuesday.
So maybe ask them on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
would we want 6-month deadlines? These are small applications with little things.
Yeah,
which-
you don't want to extend them out a year because people.
Yeah, like when we could have
Yeah.
one deadline
Yeah.
for the fall meeting and we had one deadline for the spring special
So it's like-
meetings, or we could just leave it open as long as we got it before we had to get the
Well, we have to
articles,
have a deadline before.
the due
town
dates.
meeting.
Well-
Yeah,
Kind of. The reality is if somebody submitted something to me, I would say, you've missed the deadline for the fall town meeting, so this is gonna be
right.
under consideration for spring. I don't know. that
Right,
really
yeah.
do have a
When
deadline.
I'm saying, if these are
Or tell
small
them when
projects,
if they want it to be for fall,
Right.
it would have to be submitted on such and such a date.
I mean, there's a January due date, for the spring town meeting.
Right,
Well, that should
So
all be
that's
clear
like
in the
3 months
application.
ahead.
It should be clear in the application if, if you're picking up an application and you want to make an application that would be approved at the Springtown meeting, it has to be in by such and such a date.
Mhm.
So
Because
what
that's,
about
just put it in the application information.
January
right?
1st for a spring meeting and July 1st for fall
Yeah.
meeting,
that should work.
right?
Makes it simple, easy.
And
to
it's
remember.
exact right on the 6-month calendar.
So yeah, you print it right on the application. And because these are small, I don't, but this is gonna be something where we're not going, if they bring it in 2 days late, they're gonna have to wait. So,
so
What do
what,
you got?
July 1st for
Before
fall?
Yeah.
And January 1st.
January 1st for spring, because we
And
have to
also-
tell by the 3rd week in January, we have to tell the selectmen.
yeah,
Right,
January 1st makes sense.
Yeah,
well, it'll be January 2nd because January 1st is a holiday.
Or you can sit here and wait for New Year's
That's
Eve.
gonna happen. And nothing missing on the application that you can think of. So this says CPC amount requested maximum $20,000.
Well, I was gonna ask, this probably should be reviewed carefully so that everything that's pertinent to our application process is important. Maybe it's here, maybe it isn't, I don't know.
do you want to make it
Um,
20 or 25? or-
I say 20. so
Yeah.
I-
20?
Of course,
So-
wood is going on.
George, go ahead.
So one of the things I think maybe we want to spend a little time on is to want to look at our budget and perhaps based on, we don't have limitless funds, is to maybe think about setting up a pool number, 50,000 is available for each period. So, just throwing that out as something, do we want to,
No, I think
make it a finite number?
That's a good idea.
I don't think we'd get that many, but somehow to me, like
How many
10 at 20 would be 200,000, would be the maximum we could approve.
In the aggregate. So what I'm thinking, my question is just from the standpoint of, if we get 300,000-400,000, dollars worth of applications, let's say we get 10 at 20, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Is there a number that, we want to max out for these or not?
I think it would be, we take it on the 6-month basis. So it depends on what we have. Right now, I know we have enough money to do 10 at 20,
Okay,
but I wouldn't want to be reviewing 50 of these things, and I don't think that's going to happen.
right. Okay, that was just,
So we could I wouldn't have any problem with putting it right on the application that we be approving 10 projects this year, so that you make people rush if they're thinking about it to get it in instead of waiting, thinking this is endless.
right. I like that, and I think that's a great idea. And, come early. Get it in.
Come early, don't come often.
Right. Now, it'll be real interesting to see if we can get
Well,
more interest.
so do you think
Yeah,
it's just George here, there's nobody else here, right?
yeah, still nobody in the attendee world.
So seeing we're not gonna vote on this, Don, I think you could put this together. And when you get the application with the notes we already have, we can sit here and next meeting, vote on to put it out, because we'd be putting it out for July now, right?
And one other suggestion, perhaps somebody from Truro can join us at our next meeting, and we could have discussions with them as to how it worked and anything for us to keep in mind. So, similar to what we do with Dennis. So we have that communication.
I think that's a good idea. I'd be interested in who applied for what and what they approved.
Right, what they learned. Yep.
Well, we know what they had, what the applications that were submitted, because they were, I think I put them in the packet. It was this page.
Yeah.
And you can see, I went looking, they have an actual public hearing to discuss their CPC applications. So this was the public hearing notice, and I went looking for the minutes because that was supposed to happen February 1st, and the minutes obviously haven't been approved yet, so they're not available. But that's what they were looking at for CPC money. And the ones that are smaller, like the edible forest and the beach paddle craft, those things were through the mini grant. And the big ones were through the regular grants. So I'll keep my eyes open for what happened at the public hearing.
So can I ask a question about that? So they have they get all their applications together, both the mini grants and the others, and then they have a public hearing after the CPC has made decisions about what they're planning to award, or is it
I think it's
to help
prior.
prior to? Okay. Because we, in
Let me
essence,
see, because you know what else I have? This is an excerpt of the minutes, they're December minutes, right? And then this is the meeting notice for a public hearing that was posted in January. So they discussed, say, the paddlecraft racks. They discussed that at their December 21 meeting. But they didn't, doesn't look like they voted. They just kind of hashed things out. So it looks to me like they go from a discussion and review of the applications to a public hearing, and then they vote.
I mean, that's a great idea, but and remember, everything is, takes place in public meetings. So everything in
Well,
essence.
essentially, everything have to go through town
Yeah.
meeting anyways. And
Yeah.
our meetings, they are public.
Mhm.
I suppose we could. I just don't see the reason for a public meeting.
Yeah, well, we are. We're,
I
if
think you look
we're
at
on
things that
Zoom,
do in
This
the
is the
winter,
public.
yeah,
It could be that.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, it
It surprised me because I thought the same thing. I said, all the meetings are public, the applications are posted online, anybody can look at them anytime. And then all the meetings are public, and you've got town meeting,
Well,
you've got Board of Selectmen's meeting.
once
where
we
they
get to the
discuss-
deadline, we're gonna know what applicants we have. We can talk and we can vote on them. And then we can announce to the public, these are the ones we are going to recommend to town meeting.
Right.
If you have comments or want to come to our next meeting,
And you can say it Tuesday night. Well, I mean, not that we have that many more meetings before town meeting, but
what I don't want is some of the people who object to anything and everything at town meeting coming in and objecting to these at our meeting when you're gonna do the same thing at town meeting.
Yeah,
You
we-
know who those
we just
people
do it in reverse. We propose amounts to town meeting is the public meeting.
mhm. Yeah, I just thought it's an interesting
Instead of having a public
Well,
and then.
To
process.
be honest with you, they don't have that many people in Thorold.
And everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah, I was thinking it's probably.
I mean, I don't think it's a
No
bad idea in terms of contributing to a sense of transparency,
Mhm.
to make a decision, to get a feel for what the town thinks and then go to town meeting. But I wonder if it's really, necessary because of the fact that anybody can come to these meetings anyway.
Well, anybody who subscribes online to the town agendas
Mhm.
would get a notice and they could come to the very first discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're an open book, right?
And again, usually by the time the fall comes around, like we've been 3 times before the Board of Selectmen since October.
Mhm.
So
To the
it's.
point where the selectmen is saying, why are you? You told us so.
So I agree with you. I think there's plenty of transparency and opportunity for people to participate. It was just something interesting that the research uncovered.
Very good. Thank you.
So I'll start working on some drafts and reach out to Truro. Does anybody know anybody already on the Truro CPC? Doesn't matter. I don't know. I'll fine doing it, but I didn't know if we already had.
No.
Or you could just
name.
Send them an email saying like, have one of them have the discussion.
I can do that.
Just one other point. So it'll be interesting to see how they're handling the financial component of it. If you have a small grant request, does that person requesting or the entity have to front the money and sign a contract and all that? So I think it would be helpful to understand how their administrative side works.
Yeah, even like with our big grants, we always ask for, leveraging their own funds. And I think we would continue to do that.
Right, right.
So they could come to us for a mini grant, but that doesn't mean they can't ask other organizations.
Well, in this application, they show a worksheet,
Mhm.
and it does have the column for money from other sources, so.
Yeah, and that should remain.
The thing, I guess, if let's say I wanted to put some signs up on trees in the around town, the case may be, I want to use, I think it's gonna cost $10,000 to make the signs. if I am personally gonna start that process with some friends or neighbors or something, I would think that it would be most helpful for me to have some money up front from the CPC to get that started. You know, and not have to, you know, front. I don't think it's reimbursement.
But also like what we would normally do, like if you were gonna do something like that, we go, well, make a note of the number of volunteer hours that
Yeah.
are gonna be contributed here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that kind of counts towards
Yeah.
an
it-
equal
even with the
dollar value.
cemetery, with the great, all that
Mhm.
volunteer. We wouldn't have it otherwise.
No.
But you can't ask them to volunteer and front money out of their pocket.
So there has to be a process. You know, for how do we get started? How do we initially get the funds to order the signs, let's say?
Right, if you need the 25% down or something.
In this case, they have a consultant on what their projects have to do with the fishing
Mhm.
industry display at the beach. You know, so that costs $3,000. We have the consultant come down. You know, CPC gonna give us a check for the 3,000 at the end of this presentation. How does that work? Just want to know.
Because one of the things that it works better to do the reimbursement piece, because then you don't run into the procurement question, right? Because when you're spending public money, you need to procure it properly, which is a multi-step process. Whereas if we're reimbursing someone for money that they spent, we don't have to go through the procurement process.
Yeah, that's where I think it would be really helpful to talk to someone much further
Mm.
about how they do that.
Right.
Because again, I had to pay $3,000 with a consultant to come open it down. Procurement process, you know, I want to make sure that.
Well, that's the thing. If you spent it out of your own pocket and submitted a reimbursement request to the CPC, you would get reimbursed.
But I don't even want to spend it out of my own.
Oh, I don't blame
Maybe
you.
have people come along and say, gee, I have a great project, but I don't have any money. You know, that's possible, you know?
That's a problem.
Yeah, so we'll find out
Well,
more
we'll
from
see
the
when the
people in
application
front,
come
right?
in and try and deal with it as best we can.
Yeah.
What we don't want to do, you know, is they need upfront money to buy something, and then we buy it, and then they go, well, the volunteers don't
Yeah,
want to do
nobody
it
wanted
anymore.
to, yeah. We had the welcome party breakfast and then nobody showed up to the second meeting.
So then you and I are gonna be up there nailing signs to trees on weekends.
That's why hopefully it'll be established, not the problems that are coming in.
All right. So we'll get that ball rolling then.
Well, it sounds like everybody's in favor, at least going ahead to the next step.
Yes.
Yeah, again, I don't think vote on anything. I can just get some things together and we can, you know, hopefully have a
Well,
bigger group next time.
The first due date will be July 1st anyhow, so we have plenty of time to,
So then-
Never have plenty of time.
I was gonna say, so then we're gonna have to schedule a meeting prior to June 1st, so keep that in the back of your mind.
All right, so next we have the staff update. So I think you would be first, John, about the budget contract closeout.
And the end of year cleanup. So the budget really hasn't changed since the last time you saw it, which is got all the allocations from this past round. So that is just no significant change, but what will start happening now is, I don't think I included this, but this is the first round of contract closeouts, projects that are finished. And there's money left over, or sometimes there's not. But I started with the town projects because I figured that would be the most convenient, because Jeff is always around and I can always have conversations with him and Laura and find out things quickly and easily. So these are the town projects that are over and done with according to Jeff Colby, and I have that in an email, which I was going to submit to the accounting department for them to start returning back into the undesignated fund or the fund that it originally came out of, as the case may be. You don't, could have given you the expanded version of this. This is what I gave Jeff, but I've hidden a couple columns which indicate which fund it came from. So we do know that. We have that information, and that's what will go to accounting. So that is going to be probably the first change that we'll see in the next budget spreadsheet,
Okay.
is some of these returns.
So
Those returns would cover mini grants,
they do.
if you look at it that way, you know?
There's a couple big ones in
Yeah.
there. And you know, not in any derogatory way at all, but a couple of them were Pat Armstrong's projects, the Indian Memorial and the pickleball. And she, you know, she always made sure she had enough money to finish a project, and she always returned the excess.
Well,
So you can see
honestly,
a couple of big,
we did it on the pickleball. We had to go back and ask for more. That's why we made sure she asked for more, because we're not doing it a third time,
okay, there you go.
because the price of asphalt went up. Remember?
Yep.
So that's the first little chunk.
So on each of these projects, the person who's in charge of it is aware that it's closed out and we're gonna be asking for returning the money to our account.
They're all Jeff Colby, yep. And like I say, he agreed with this spreadsheet, the amount that was appropriated, used, and what remains, and he agreed that they're all able to be closed, and the money
So that
goes
money
back
goes
into the
back,
pot.
goes back into the CPC account, and then it could be utilized for future projects.
Right, have it, like if it's from recreation, it should go back to recreation.
And that's, I'm not sure if that's like a rule, or it's just
I don't think
the
it's a
policy
rule.
that this CPC has always followed.
I think. it should go
We've
back to-
tried to do it.
Yeah, it should get back to the designated.
Yeah, that was always my understanding. I can't say that I actually can cite a chapter or section.
So you don't know if it's a regulation. or
Right.
just a tradition.
It seems like a good policy to me. I don't know why you would not do that unless you wanted to bulk up a fund or a
Yeah.
reserve
Yeah.
that's
So it has to
slightly,
go- It has to go into one of the categories, right?
Okay,
could go into
Go
undesignated.
into
Sometimes
undesignated.
it's split between two categories.
Right, and there, I think, I'm not sure if it's in this group of town projects, but there are some that will be going back, and I'll have to figure out that split. Where all the funds were not expended, and so how much goes back to undesignated and how much goes back to,
So what you do is take the
Recreation.
percentage
yeah.
of each and split it.
That's
Let's
why I
say-
started with the easy ones.
So let's say money goes back into recreation, for example.
Mhm.
That would be, for example, a $5,000 for playground landscaping.
Yep,
Okay, so it goes back into recreation, and it's available for their next application.
But it would be in there.
well, there's not
Yeah.
really a specific reserve for recreation.
For any. For-
Well,
for
housing,
instance, They
historic.
don't all have exactly 10% in their accounts. On any given year, we give it to them,
Mhm.
but they could have much more than that.
Right, yeah, depending on how much was spent the previous year.
So I think even if it's not a regulation, I think we should do it anyways. We wouldn't be going against anything. Part of, I see it on the state level, and I don't.
I just don't understand it. So if they have to make an application every year anyway. So what we're saying is that they're gonna be starting out with whatever money, let's say, let's call it in the bank that they have. But if they don't make an application, right, that money just kind of languishes in that.
Which,
account.
Christine could tell you, because she hasn't applied for open space
Yeah.
in a while, so the account builds up.
Oh, so you're waiting for it to build up.
But you kind of need
My
it.
open space is building up, but it has 1 million something, but I can think of 3 projects that are 1 million each. you know,
Yeah,
so
so
I,
that's a tough one.
yeah, because it's a big,
Mhm.
it's a big.
Yeah, if you
dollar.
allocated just 10% every year, she wouldn't be able to do anything
That's right.
because you
Well,
can't
what-
buy anything for
What if
280
something comes
thousand.
along, like open space, or whatever, and maybe this doesn't apply, let's say that recreation has built up some money, and they're not applying for the money, and then there's another project that needs more money to be taken out of.
I don't think you can do that.
So once
Out
you
of
put it-
something that's already
so
allocated.
Once you put it in, if they don't use all their money, right, for this project, $5,000 goes back into recreation.
Mhm.
Bucket as, what's that fellow's name?
But I don't think like you can rate it from historic into,
So you'll lock it up, that's my
Yeah.
question, do you want to lock?
Well, and I think that's one reason that with the annual allocations, you've traditionally given the 10%. You can give more.
which we have to. We have to do 10.
You have to
By
do
law.
10, but you could do more. But you guys usually have always given 10% to the open space, historic, and
Housing.
housing, and put all the rest in undesignated. So that
Any
undesignated you
one of
can
them
use.
Raid the undesignated.
That's right. If anything is bigger than what's allocated, the difference can come out of undesignated.
So what the state does, for instance, which I hate, is because we're big campers. You have DCR, which regulates all the state campgrounds.
Okay.
All right, well, they never have enough money to maintain the campgrounds, but yet they make a profit. And they take all the money from that profit and put it into the general fund.
Oh, really?
That happens a lot.
So they can't afford to cut trees at Nickerson Park. But they're making a profit, but it goes back into the general fund.
So that should be like an enterprise fund, like the golf course.
Above me, it's
Something,
at the
yeah.
state level. I just think I don't think it's right.
So we'll stick with our plan then. I will
Bringing that up. because I think our
reallocate
plan is
those.
a Good idea.
I agree with it. And I like, it's nice to be able to work in a environment that you think people are making good decisions.
Right.
So I'm gonna start with that, and then I'm gonna continue on. There are probably a dozen other projects that can be closed out. Some of them go back a little ways, and like Christine asked earlier about the, not Amos Baker, but
Winslow.
Winslow Crocker. And yes, they finished their historic, maybe George has detail on this,
Archaeological.
I didn't
Maybe
ever saw them
not.
dig any holes out there, but I guess they did.
but they did it, and we've got a copy of the report, so when I do this little analysis, I'll make sure to put together a packet that gives you the end of the project report along with these numbers.
Yeah, put on there what it came out of.
And the buckets, So I can't promise which will be on the chopping block next, but now that I got a good system laid out, I think I'm confident to move through the rest of them. And then the next step, which will be a little bit parallel with getting these accounts closed out, we'll also be following up with all the open projects. Because most of our actual agreements say that we expect an update by June 1st of every year. So now is a good time to start reaching out to some of those other,
You know how many open projects there are?
I don't, but I bet it's a couple dozen. Then one, for example, is the South Yarmouth Methodist Church. They've never come back to us, even though their application we held open for them. So I think, there's probably leadership issues and COVID and everything else. So it probably dropped right off their radar. They had to put it on the back burner. I don't think that,
Those are open applications, I mean, they never got any money.
right. So,
Well, if they haven't come back, I think, we'd have to decide, but I think we should close that. Because they
because
have,
that money is still, kind of like,
it should be available to
Available,
people who
should
are
be,
ready
yeah.
to move forward.
Yeah.
Because it was held in advance of some sort.
I'd get a check in the accounting system again and find out exactly where it is. But that's the big part of it, is that accounting system needs to get updated regularly, and Karen and I have talked about it, and we figure it should probably get a good analysis quarterly. So that's what we're going to be trying to do, is make sure that we get at least one update a year by June 1st. And, like I said, deep dive into the two worlds of what we keep track of and what the accounting department keeps track of. And then also closing out contracts and getting any residuals back into the pots. So
Well, thank you for all your hard work.
it helps me trying to get the whole thing, wrap my head around it all. And just because I know that Mary Wagan has this Zoom license at 4:15, I'll make sure we zip along to the draft
Yep.
warrant articles.
Well, we skipped over flex bond.
That's fine.
Oh, sorry, that one's really important. Did you all get a copy of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have quorum, so you can't vote. But there could be consensus. Because what'll happen is, if you guys are okay with this extension request, then I'll give it to Bob Rittenhour. And he'll draw up his memo, which will go back to the DPW.
This is another case where the town filed something without a lot of backup. Then they got all the backup. They weren't ready to proceed, and now they want an extension. It shouldn't have been filed to begin with.
Is this one
I mean-
is, oh yeah, this is. Because this one's, going back. Well, at the time, frankly, this was Pat. And she had the time and the staff. And then she retired, and Jeff doesn't have what Pat had, so.
I mean, this-
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question about that, looking for Jeff's thing. Oh, here it is. So you said due to staff limitations and other priorities. What are the staff limitations and other
Hire
priorities?
them.
That's,
I know, I read that these days and I say, well, they can't get help. That's what that's what everybody says, but I mean, now you mentioned something else where the town has reduced the staff that used to have an impact on Jeff and his ability to get stuff done. Is that what you're saying?
right, because Pat was the director of community services. And that entailed library, golf, senior center, and parks and cemeteries.
Yeah.
So Pat retired and they didn't replace her.
Yeah.
Really. Now the assistant town administrator is director of community services. But this Flax Pond project, parks and cemeteries got moved back over to DPW. So there was reorganization that was
They've
done.
reorganized this thing so many times. And it doesn't seem to get better, it gets worse.
They reorganized it without, they put it back over there, but they didn't provide any assistance,
Right, right.
which is some sort of flawed thinking. I think. I don't know. I hear it, do all this work, but we're not gonna give them any help to do it,
I mean, this is right, like with the volunteers doing the gravestone cleaning, because there's just not staff that can
But I mean.
do anything like that.
I won't belabor this, but the thing is, and so I think, this committee did its due diligence in terms of
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, George is next.
this project and all that sort of thing. And then, it looks like then the town drops the ball, so I mean,
Mhm.
Always,
not the first
always been a
time.
problem with town projects.
Yeah.
Me, Christine, and talk to it, we're gonna, at some point, go and talk to the town administrator, and we can't keep cutting slack to town projects when we're making the private.
I totally agree with that. Totally.
Well, in civil
So-
service, nobody works overtime, so nothing ever gets completed.
But if you're in the private sector, there is no such thing as overtime.
You just work until
George?
you're done.
Did you want to comment?
Yes, how much money are we talking about? What on this project? How much has been set aside?
Good chunk of change.
It was, and I didn't bring that with me. So since we don't have enough time for me to track it down right now, I can,
And we can't
Just a
go,
ballpark.
Oh, it's part of a master plan. It's probably a couple $100,000.
Okay, I mean, one of the things, and we, just to throw out for conversation standpoint, they're asking for 3 years. One of the things we might consider is doing it for 1 year and have them come back,
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
because to
No,
your
not
point,
years, then you-
Gary, you give them 3
Years.
years and they'll be back in 3 years.
I'm not
You got it.
comfortable with sitting in the round file.
So we can't vote on it now, but I'd be in favor of 1 year. Either get going on it or give the money to somebody who can use it to do something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
All right, so there's
So
enough
just put it in the minutes.
consensus,
That was our consensus today.
and I will have Jeff fix the request. And then, we'll give it to Bob and see if Bob has any thoughts on it. I mean,
Well, if Bob doesn't agree with us, we will be in to see Bob.
maybe he can think
And
about
nothing
hiring
against him. I
or
mean,
finding a way to hire more staff or replace staff
Maybe
that's
it'll
been
force them to do it.
disappeared. Yeah.
The thing is, so you, I mean, I know there's a transition in terms of that Armstrong is going. But if you apply for something and you say, this is what you want to do and how you want to do it, you want to deal with it. The presentation is all about, we have a plan, and we have the ability to do this. And then they turn around a year later, 2 years later, now we can't really do it, because not only because of staff, but because of priority, whatever the hell they are.
Either you plan on moving on it
Splash pad.
or you drop the
Yeah.
project.
And we'll find another. like
Tracy's
Gary
not
said,
good money.
We'll find another place to use the money.
All right, I will get that updated. And we'll go on to, oh yeah, the draft warrant articles. Like I said, that is going to be reviewed again.
Okay.
On
You have to be there
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
What?
Are you going Tuesday? Yeah.
Didn't know I was.
It does seem
But-
like they would like somebody there. We're gonna, it's not such an
Well,
issue with this group.
the only issue I have is I'm on call for jury duty in Boston for 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
So I get no warning.
So you may or may not?
Well, if I have to go, I have to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want?
Christine can do it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, what do they want?
They've already seen it.
I mean,
Whatever questions may have popped into their heads, I guess, in the past month since, because I gave you a copy of the memo that we sent them on January 19th, right? That kind of explained the budget and the articles. At that time, I guess it used to be practice that they would get a copy of the draft warrant articles. This year, it's gone a little bit different in that we sent our draft articles to Bob and Bill, and they put together a draft warrant. So they saw the whole thing packaged all together.
I have it already.
And so that's what they've got, and that's what they may or may not have questions on Tuesday.
I move that they approve as written in the warrant.
Well, it's never come to this, but they don't have an option on this.
No, this is it.
We're bringing it forward. They
might
don't have, they can vote to not,
They might
support
have
it.
inquisitive questions, but they can't.
right, they can't tell us we can't bring it to town meeting.
That's right. Well,
But you're comfortable with the language,
Yes.
the explanation?
They can recommend them.
that's it. Yeah.
So yeah, as long
I don't
as,
think anything controversial this year's articles.
I know, it seems it's a light load for one thing, and yeah, they're all good projects, they usually are. So if that's good, then I'll keep you posted as to, I think Karen has an email into Bob about the actual time, like where are they on the agenda?
We'll be last.
That comes out Friday, so.
Tomorrow's already Thursday, that's right.
All right, so next we can't vote on the coalition dues,
No.
and we can discuss the letter of interest from Riverway for work.
Yeah, we can't approve minutes either.
With everyone seeing
Yes.
the letter of interest.
Here's the Riverway. I mean, I look at the Riverway proposal, sort of like the veterans housing type proposal, you know.
I can say it's doing a ton of them in Barnstable.
This is something that Kyle just happened to show me when he, I had asked him if he had heard anything more about where this project stood, because they worked a little bit with the, Economic Development Committee. And so they they had, the Family Table Collaborative had done a informal site plan review, I think it was, and that's the diagram that they provided. So it's a pretty extensive project. I mean, they want gardens, outdoor seating, and this housing and everything.
Well, they were asking us for money for housing.
Up here, this house,
Behind the
Yeah.
bank, yeah.
and so last Wednesday, Harry Henry let me know that they're still finishing up their business plan, which has to be put in place in order to get other potential funding. They also,
Are they a not-for-profit? That's the first question.
I don't know, do they have, what do they call themselves here? Family Table Collaborative Housing. Family Table Collective Inc., Collaborative Inc. So an Inc. is not a non-profit, right?
No,
They received a co-work planning grant from the state. As part of that process, they met with the town for an informal site review to understand what they can and cannot do with the property. And it is not as straightforward as they hoped. There are multiple plots and a public way / street running through the property. So they need to do some work with the town to figure out how to proceed with the physical property itself.
Where is it, Riverway property? Where is it?
On the corner down here.
Down near the Riverway Restaurant?
yeah,
That
It
is
used
the
to be
river.
the
this is the Riverway Restaurant,
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is the house behind the
Oh,
bank.
it's behind it.
Behind the
Okay,
bank.
all
so
right.
you can see it's a weird looking parcel and it's got
Yeah.
a public way, street. So there's lots of,
Doesn't look to me like they meet setbacks, but
Yeah, they have to go, they had to get approvals from building department. and
so
everything else.
everything with us, even if we did it, would have to be conditional upon all that. Also, went through this before, I want to know that they own the property. But it's not leased from somebody else and they don't own it.
It's true, they could pull out.
We went through that with the Gory House. They don't own the house.
oh. Yeah, so I think
I'll look
it's
that up
just
when I go home on the.
a good letter of interest.
Yeah,
They're not really ready to put together a full proposal, so I don't think that they're gonna make it for fall town meeting.
no.
No.
They're gonna have to have plans done, get through Board of Appeals and all that. Can't say this because I have to, all that bullshit. I don't think they have conservation yet. George?
And,
But-
and Donna, the next time you speak to Mr. Harry, let's ask him that question about the not-for-profit status.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that on the
Yeah.
table right up front.
Because, yeah, he was very curious to hear what you guys felt about the proposal, the concept. So those are two questions, the not-for-profit status, proof of ownership, anything else?
And then they were.
Clearly, housing is a priority, obviously, but early on.
So then we'd be putting a deed restriction on that it'll remain that way
Okay,
soon. So I'd like to get Mary's input on this, and if that's workforce housing, would it count on our inventory?
I'll check with Mary on that because I know she's been in contact with him as
How
well.
many units are they gonna get in? That
5.
5 is what they're shooting for.
What am I missing?
When I convert the house to create 5 units of workforce housing.
Oh, so the house is
So
already
this must
there.
be the house.
Yes.
I'll drive
And-
by it.
Yeah, you have to kind of go between the bank
So
and
they're
the
doing
restaurant.
5. They're gonna have to do a handicap unit. I would assume they know this.
And apparently it's
So when you
a,
do a handicap unit, you get bigger. I don't see how they get 5 units out of that house.
And so this is the restaurant here?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they want to convert this to some sort of a,
it's kind of I don't think it's really changing substantially on the inside because I
Well,
was there and,
The use is changing, isn't it? For what they're gonna do with it?
well, they serve breakfast in the main dining
what
room.
they do now.
So that's no change. It's just that they have rotating chefs who volunteer.
Oh, okay.
And so the menu changes every week based on what that chef is gonna make. And apparently there's some job training that goes on as well as far as running a restaurant, hospitality,
I didn't know that.
cooking.
Yeah.
And they wanna have more like, they have some food product that they sell, like pickles and relishes and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think they wanna build a little bit of that grab and go
So-
kind of stuff
So they were open now?
on weekends. And what else do they have? I don't know if I know at one point they were trying to do beer and wine sales, but
They have a bar. What do they do with the bar?
I don't know if they figured that piece out yet. And I'm not sure if that's where Harry Henry's responsibilities lie.
So is this a place where anybody could go on Saturday morning or is
Yeah.
this a?
Open to public, yeah.
Oh, I see. I just wasn't aware of it.
So what are they doing with the
Right.
second floor,
Of the house or the restaurant?
the restaurant?
I don't.
I would have thought that's where they put the housing.
So the chances are that these folks don't own that property, right?
I
Well,
think they
the
do.
restaurant is under Yarmouth Riverway LLC, care of Joseph Cisco.
Say, there you. That's what we went into, and with Corey, we give the money to, and then somebody else owns it.
So
Yeah.
they're
through
they're
that.
probably a lessee.
We went
Let me
through
see
that
about
with-
the back lot.
With, Rick Bishop, that was part of the problem. You can't give the money to somebody, and then they give it to somebody else.
Right, right. And I think, I can't remember, they did try to
So it's,
explain about the family, that owns the building, who is supportive of the project, but do they have the ownership in the right
right,
position?
The
for
back
this?
lot is the same owner.
So,
So it seems like they gotta get a few things together.
it's gonna be a big issue that they own it.
but that's good, then I can make sure that we're clear on that for him, if he wants to go for CPC money. Because the initial question also revolved around historic. Because half of this house came from Nantucket, they shipped it over 100 years
Never
ago.
even noticed the house.
And I said, I don't think you're gonna get money out of the historic bucket.
Lots of houses were shipped over from
You
Nantucket.
might, but they have to own it.
So, yeah.
You can't be leasing it from dad
Yeah.
and then improving his property, the money we gave you.
I've got good guidance for him now, tell him what to pay attention
It's a
to.
good concept. Just we gotta be clear on it. We put a lot of time.
So that's good. And like I say, I know he's worked with Mary because I've given her his information and I've given him her information. So that's as much as I can.
So you're gonna ask Mary if it goes on our inventory.
Yeah. All right, and so minutes get tabled till the next time. Thank you.
It's a very detailed sketch.
And somebody will be here. Well, we can talk on Monday or Tuesday about. Are you
So
gonna come?
one
I'll
more
be there
thing.
Tuesday.
I don't know who we bring it up to,
Mhm.
but what is going to happen with the public gardens behind the fire station? Is that just gone,
Just
junk?
gone. Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna put that fire prop up there.
Where are you talking
Well,
about?
we paid for it, then they should pay us back.
Which fire station are you talking about?
The one in
Buck Island.
Buck Island
Number
Road.
3 on Buck
You have to
Island.
go, pull into the parking lot and go behind it.
There's a community garden back there,
Yeah, that we paid for.
and what's gonna go in there now?
Well, first of all, the community garden hasn't really been
Not in a few
utilized in
years.
several years, and that was one of the problems. Is there,
We used to have an agricultural committee,
I see.
which is who we gave the money to. And they no longer exist, correct?
I don't know that they do. I don't
They
know
mustn't,
who's
if they're
on it.
not
Yeah.
growing.
Maybe we should ask.
I don't think so. Not on the, I don't think it's on the list of committees.
I haven't heard anything from them in years.
Unless it was a subcommittee of conservation. or
Right,
something,
'cause I think
or,
Did
Natural
they get-
resources or something. Yeah.
So I want to look into the contract we gave them the money. Was there any contingency? If they gave it up, they had to pay it back.
Oh, yeah.
I can check on it, because I have noticed some community garden stuff in my organizing and planning that I've been doing in the past.
So is it what, raised beds back there or something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
It's like the one at the senior center.
Oh, okay.
It was used for the first few years.
It was, and then
Pretty well.
whatever
Used
usership
quite a
just
bit.
went down, and then nobody was really. I think that's probably what happened. The agricultural committee probably kind of dissolved in some way, and so there was nobody really to be in charge of what was going on over there. And before you knew it, there were 2 gardeners, and they couldn't battle all the weeds and.
Yeah, it's huge overgrown.
Yeah, and so now it looks like nobody's caring for it, so why not put the county and state maybe as well gave grant money to the fire department to put in a prop house for practicing
Training
What-
center
Oh, like a,
training.
oh,
Training
I
center.
see. Yeah.
Like they used to have it over in
Yeah.
with no foam,
Hyannis.
no foam.
Well, if nobody's using the community garden, that might not, as long as they've met their obligations, you know. So.
I'll
And
take,
even if they haven't, what do you do now? You'll find them?
I didn't
No, but, you know, so I know if the agriculture committee just went away,
check their budget. See
Check
if there's
their
anything
budget.
left in their budget.
do they have any money?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
All right,
Probably
Done.
not.
I move we adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
All right,
Yeah, George.
all right, guys.
Thanks, George.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
George.
you. Thanks,
Uh,
Don Marie. Good job.
Thanks for bringing this small thing from Truro to our attention, because I think it's
Yeah,
interesting.
it'll be fun. Thank you.
I hope.
all right,
If it's
take
not
care.
fun, we don't want to do it.
Right,
Something different. Keep us
Oops.
interested.
But we'll keep town residents interested too, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Cheerio. How you doing?
Wait till the-
Pardon me?
no,
How you
never
doing?
even-
Oh, good. How are
I'm
you?
gonna try to make a copy of that for you.
No,
I didn't have a lot of
It's like
confidence.